Hello and welcome to the MKG Podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Gard. This podcast helps demand gen marketers grow their company's business through the right means, messaging, media, and measurement, the 4 M's as we like to say. At MKG, we hire experts, and to help me introduce today's guest, I have account director expert, Adam Bullock. Hello, Adam.
Hello there.
Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
I'm excited to have you on this one because I feel like this is right up your alley.
Oh, totally. Marketing automation comes up a lot. It comes up a lot.
It does.
Yep.
It does. And before this, we were actually talking about how marketing automation, I totally screw this up in the podcast, and I love how Brad's our guest today, who actually corrects me, and it's brilliant. I love getting corrected all the time and being wrong because I feel like it makes for interesting conversation. But you were saying how I'm not the only one who gets this wrong in terms of thinking marketing automation is simply email.
Yeah. Having been with a couple companies that have deployed it, I think that's where people point to initially, and Brad makes an excellent point. It's much more than just emails. It's really understanding the customer journey, and it's looking beyond just what email goes to the right person and what people like. It's much
and
more
open rates.
And open rates, right.
We were talking too, I think it's interesting too in thinking about systems and automation and even like applying it to our own everyday lives, like outside of marketing, especially with kids, right? Like I talk about the schedule all the time, which is the perfect example of systems in our case, isn't it really?
Totally. I mean, parenting is essentially creating hundreds of little systems and processes for your little ones. Even just as something as easy as my children don't eat snack every morning. And if they don't eat snack, kind of like with all of us, you could get a little grouchy. That happens. What we do on the weekends is we always go somewhere in the morning. And we've actually created this system in place where every morning around snack time is when we leave. So when my children start to know that it's about that time, they feel a little antsy to go somewhere. We always do snack in the car. Car rides become wonderful, beautiful things. And by the time we arrive at the destinations, my children's tummies are full, they're happy, they're healthy, and it's all part of that system that we're all doing as parents and marketers every day.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that system specifically is that there's technically no automation with it, right? You're not having like this automatic robot show up and feed snacks to your kids. It's just this system that you've created to know that if things happen in this order, then the outcome is going to be far better than having missed the snack altogether or leaving too early and forgetting or whatever the case may be. So I think that's what's also interesting about this conversation is that marketing automation isn't necessarily about it being automated. Mm-hmm. And so I have an example, literally just happened to me 2 days ago. You all can probably tell if you've been listening to the other podcasts that I don't sound like myself. And that's because I am recovering from a cold, a nasty chest infection. And not that I'm trying to plug Theraflu in any way, although I think it is a godsend. I had to run to the store for Theraflu. We ran out between my husband and I, like living on this stuff right now. And I have a grocery store next to a pharmacy. And so I'm like, oh, this is medicine. I need to go to the pharmacy. And I walk in and there is one person behind the counter of this incredibly long line. Well, like you, Adam, I have 2 children who are waiting in the car with my husband, and they aren't going to wait that long. So I go, well, let me go check the Safeway next door that has 6 self-checkouts and 5 open lanes and see if they have Theraflu over there. Lo and behold, they do, thank goodness. And I was able to in and out, right? But if you don't have multiple people working at a checkout with a huge line like that, you're going to lose customers. I mean, that's a simple sort of system that Safeway has put in place in acknowledging self-checkout needing to be a thing versus Bartell's of not even having enough people.
Right. And I think that's brilliant. And it leads directly into what Brad talks about in the word of automation. It's, automatic automation, sure, but you need to find the processes that work, and we've outlined a couple already. And what marketing automation does so well is it allows you to then get that going behind the scenes, freeing up more time, knowing what works. And we've both found our systems, our processes that work, and market automation is really built for doing just that.
And Brad gives a ton of really great examples throughout this podcast. So in introducing Brad Martineau, he is the CEO of Sixth Division. He's actually, it's actually a company that Mike and I went to last year to learn all about marketing automation. We set up our own user flows and our own customer journeys so that when new clients come in, they get to have the full MKG experience, both systematically and automatically. And it was just a really great conversation I had with Brad. So let's take a listen and see what Brad has to say about marketing automation and how he corrects me so thoughtfully.
Let's do it.
Today I am here with Brad Martineau. Did I say that right? Correct me.
Martineau. I've heard them all. That works. I'll respond to it.
Awesome. Well, Brad, thank you for joining us today. So excited to have you. Brad and I actually connected last year. I actually went out to Sixth Division and got to experience the full works of what marketing automation is. And I'm so excited to have you on to talk through what it is and how it helps marketers.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm excited to, this is the thing that I've decided to spend my life nerding out about. So I'm excited any chance I get to talk about it and help people see how with, slight lens shifts to really understand what it is. And then some practical steps of what to go do, how it can literally change. I mean, it can change lives in terms of like how much time gets spent on it, impact that it can have in a business, like all that. It's pretty fun. So I think we'll have fun today.
How I sort of started to drink the Sixth Division Kool-Aid, so to speak, is that my business partner and I were trying to figure out email marketing. We're like, we need to do this thing. Like, we haven't really tapped into it. And what is email marketing and automation? And let's go build some marketing email campaigns. And then I listened to you at HubSpot, and you were talking about marketing automation and how email is part of that, but how marketing automation is so much bigger than just email marketing. What is your definition of marketing automation?
Yeah, that's a great place to start, because marketing automation is this thing that sounds really cool and sexy, and it's also like a really crappy label. So great that it gets people sucked in, but then we've got to like redefine it so that we actually understand what it is. And here's the challenge. I'll start by describing what it's not, and then we can get into what it is a little bit more clearly. So the biggest problem with the term or the category of marketing automation are actually two of them. There's one, first is marketing, the word marketing, and second is the word automation. And then when you combine them together, it's just all downhill, because marketing in and of itself is a very vague and generic word. It could mean lots of things. It could be like capital M marketing, lowercase m marketing. And am I talking about is marketing, like, I love when people are like, I'm a digital marketer. Great. What does that mean? Like, which part of the digital marketing world do you play in? Because there's only like 400 different things that you could do. You build my website, you do PPC, you do SEO. So my contention and advice to anybody is just stop using the word marketing. Use, like, if you're talking about spending money to generate leads, just call it lead generation. It's paid lead generation or paid advertising. But marketing is a misleading term. And then automation, when you think automation, people automatically go to, I just set it and forget it. I never have to look at it again. Like, well, that's not actually, like, I don't know how many people run a business where they never have to look at it again. I'm pretty sure that there's this thing called optimization and like human.
Yeah, definitely not true.
So you combine them together, and what most people end up thinking is actually exactly what you were thinking. When they hear marketing automation, and this happens subconsciously, they process it, and then in their mind, they're like, oh yeah, it's where I do some automated emails. It's like, well, that's barely scratching the polyurethane coating of like a car when you call it that. So the first thing we have to do is dispel this idea of marketing automation. So it's not just marketing. If you look at like the life cycle of how a person goes from not knowing who you are to becoming a client, there are some stages. You've got to get in front of them, and then you've got to capture them, and they're a lead, and they might be interested in talking to you about buying something. And then once they're like, hey, let's talk, I might want to buy something from you, which could be by getting on a webinar or hitting like a sales page online or talking to someone on your team. Now you got a prospect, somebody who's like, I'm clear that I'm engaging in some sort of a sales conversation. And then they buy, and now they're a client. And ideally, you've got that, and then you want them to buy again. Once they bought as a client, now they're a lead for something else, and then maybe they want to talk to you about buying it, then they buy the next thing. And so like you've got this cycle that runs, right? So the first key is it's not marketing automation. It's the journey that your client goes on from the beginning all the way to the end. So we have to expand what we're looking at when we think marketing automation to recognize it's the entire journey beginning to end. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, I think automation makes sense when you combine it with like marketing automation as a label. I actually prefer the word automatic, not automated. And the reason why is the goal is to create something that is consistent, that is systematic, and where possible, automated, so it can be automatic, so that it can scale. Because scale really is, I figured out how this thing works at a unit of one, and I can just keep adding things on top of it. But when I think of my client journey, you know what I really want? I don't actually care if it's automated, because automated talks about how it runs. It talks about the tools I'm using to make it run. I want one that's automatic. I want one that, like, I know what's supposed to happen at every single step in the process. And I have built it in a way that what I want to have happen happens every single time like clockwork. That's automatic. Now, I'll use automation to make it automatic, but the reason why automation isn't a big enough concept to discuss what we're talking about here is there are parts of the client journey that require and involve a human being. So like in your business, like you guys do SEO and PPC. And I'm pretty sure that you guys have not automated, like this client signs up and they never talk to a human and magically they get results with SEO and PPC. My guess is that's not the way that it works.
Not even remotely.
And my guess also is that when you're getting somebody to sign up as a client, you actually have to pick up the phone and talk to them. And that's not automated either.
No.
But what it can be is it can be automatic. So every step in the client journey. So if we expand marketing to client journey, it's just a bunch of steps. Every step I want to be automatic. Some of them will be automated. Some of them will be done by a human. And so what I do is I use automation to execute the steps automatically that I can. And then I use automation to make sure that the human beings are doing the things that I want them to do. So I use automation to make sure that it's automatic. So I would say marketing automation, great way to suck people in. And the reality is what we're talking about, a better term, is it's automatic client journey. It starts at the point that you capture a lead, and it ends only one of two ways. It successfully ends when the person has continued to pay you money until they have no more money, like until they bought everything that you have to sell them and you have nothing else to offer them, or until they tell you to get the frick out of their face. Those are the only two outcomes. Every step in between is a part of your client journey. And by the way, you have one. You don't get to like opt out of it and be like, I don't have a client journey. If you don't have a client journey, you don't have clients. I don't care how big your company is. I don't care how small it is. I don't care what industry you're in. Every single company has this thing called the client journey. And the goal is to make it automatic, because automatic is what produces scale. And when you have it being automatic, and we can talk about what it means to have an automatic client journey, because there are some core pillars, then you go fill it with all your advertising and lead gen stuff. It's like, I'm just going to pump stuff in here because I know exactly what's supposed to happen. And I've designed it to give me the best possible outcome. So anyway, that may have been a little bit longer of a rant about marketing automation, but I would say replace marketing automation with automatic client journey, and you're setting yourself up pretty good. That's what it actually is across the entire client journey, and it's automatic, and then it's systematized so that it's systematic and just happens every single time.
And actually, that reminds me of a really great story you told in one of your, because I went through the whole process with 6th Division. There's a whole onboarding process.
Yep.
For people who don't know. And in one of your videos, you actually give it sticks with me to this day. And I love telling this story because it's fantastic. It's an amazing example of this, is when you went to Disneyland, Disney World.
It was Aulani, Disney's resort, Aulani in Hawaii.
That was it. And how you pulled up and they made you sit there and wait.
Yeah. Like 15 feet from the entrance. Like, why am I sitting in my car? And then like every step, it's in our academy when we bring people on, but every single step was intentionally designed, and it was involving humans. And there was a lot of it that was automated, but there was also a lot of it that was like, no, I have something I want to have happen. And then they created a system to make sure that it was automatic. And the whole outcome of this idea of I want to automate it, I want to make it automatic, I've got things that humans are being, is I want to create this amazing experience, because that's what's going to increase the likelihood that people are going to convert through my client journey to give me more money. And they nailed it. It was amazing.
Yes, I actually really want to go there as to experience the whole journey, because it looks awesome. That's great, Brad. Thank you for redefining what our marketing automation isn't, and what the journey really is. So that's great. And so when do people realize that they sort of need to not only capture, I'd actually write down, because you're right. I think everybody has a customer journey, whether they even realize it or not. When do people sort of get to the point where they're like, okay, I need to write this down, and then I need sort of make this a system? When when does that sort of come into play? I know for us, we were starting to get some momentum in sales and things. We were noticing that we were doing the same steps over and over again. Is that really when you realize, like, okay, I need to create a system here because I have got duplication and I can make
I think it generally pops up two places: when you're bored or when you're overwhelmed. Boredom is like, okay, there's got to be an easier way to do the same thing that I'm doing over and over again. So that will be hints of where it's starting to pop up. And then the other side is like, holy crap, I'm overwhelmed. Like there's too many things going on. And so now I got to put this into a system so that I can manage the volume, because basically in that case, somebody tried to scale without having an automatic client journey. So they got overwhelmed. The other side is like, oh, I got this thing down pat. Now, what things can I just take off my plate to make my life easier? And I want to, it's a matter of semantics, but I want to be really, really clear. There is no thinking about whether people have a client journey. If you have a business and you have taken somebody's money, you have a client journey. Every single client you have is going on a journey with your business, whether like with or without your consent, with or without your opinion, with or without your design. My contention is your business is better off if you acknowledge that and then go intentionally design it to make your life easier. So it's going to be because you're bored or because you're overwhelmed. And it may not be bored, but it's because you're starting to see repetition. So that's kind of the label I put on that. But you're either bored or seeing that you're doing the same thing over and over again. That's like, oh, I should do something with this. Then the other side is, holy crap, I'm totally overwhelmed. And then the third situation is if you're forward thinking enough to realize, oh, if I want to scale my business, it's got to be on the back of something that's automatic so that it can scale. Then you might proactively go look at it. And I would suggest that you go do this, but like proactively go look at, hey, this is the core asset in my business that converts my leads into clients. I ought to make sure that I know what's going on and be intentional about it.
Yeah. And so we did that for our whole sales system. And it was way bigger than we even imagined. Like when we sat down with you guys last year, we worked with one of your guys who actually took us through from start to finish in building our own client journey. And there were so many questions. He just kept asking questions. And we were like, we never even thought about that. Like, what happens when somebody doesn't show up to a meeting? We're like, well, then we'll just send them an email to reschedule. He's like, all right, let me create an email system on how that, and all the steps that go into that, right? It's just, you don't even realize how many steps are involved in just creating a reschedule of a meeting until you sit down and really write them all out and go, whoa, that's actually a lot of work. And I probably should automate that.
The key to recognize too in that is like, if it's not automated, then only one of two things is going to happen. Either it's not going to happen, or at best it's going to happen inconsistently. I guess the third thing would be that you're going to get massively overwhelmed because you're trying to remember and juggle and sort of create on the fly what this is going, what it's going to be. So it creates there's an investment to go build it. And it's kind of, I look at it as like, it's the required necessary investment. Like it's an investment for me to breathe and for me to eat and to make food to stay alive. But like, I don't know, nutrients and air are sort of like, I like those things in my life because it helps me stay alive. They're like the most important assets that I have. And then I can go with that, I can go create and do a whole bunch of other things. It's the same thing with your client journey. If you ignore it, it will atrophy and it will dwindle, as will your sales and as will your happy clients, and it will start to go away. So it does take some organization to be able to think through it systematically. It's one of the skill sets that most entrepreneurs or most marketers, most people, like, it's not a skill set that's taught anywhere. Like there's no school, like when you go get like a business degree, there's no business degree around like, now here's how you go create your client journey and make it automatic and make it systematic. It's just like, yeah, you sell stuff and you have a sales team and that's about as deep as they go. So there's a little bit of there's a skill to be learned in how to like architect and design it. And that's what you went through when you came out and worked with our team. That was the skill that they had. Is like, okay, let's just walk through this methodically so that it's organized. I don't want to it doesn't help if I overwhelm you in the process of trying to create something so that you're not overwhelmed, right? That doesn't really work. So we got to be simple and clean, but it does start to expose what was always already there. But now you can see it and you can be like, oh, I know exactly how this process is going to work. And it's organized so that I can be in control of it and I can go optimize it when and where I need to.
Yeah, we actually realized just recently, we've been running this sales funnel for about a year now. And we realized that actually half of the sales funnel isn't even being used. So as part of what was something we were constantly doing was immediately sending out this sort of questionnaire before we even had a first meeting to our clients to say, hey, fill this in and let's get this dialogue started so we know sort of what you need. And then we get to the meeting and they wouldn't have it done. We're like, well, we just need to stop sending that out. We just need to stop doing that. And we'll just use the time in the meeting to fill that in and take that step out and take the work out for the client and take that out of our process and simplify our process that way as well. And so you do have to come back to it, and you do have to optimize, and you do have to find, you might set it out initially, but once you see all the steps, you're actually, I can simplify this.
Well, it could be. And the beauty is that in your business, you get to decide what makes the most sense, because an alternate approach in a separate business might be, I need to change how I tee up the importance of filling out this worksheet before they get on a call. And it might even be like, I'm not even gonna let you schedule till you fill this out, because I don't want to spend the time getting the info. And then that's up to you to decide. I believe that from when a human being is involved in the play, or in whatever experience it is, when a human being's involved, they're only going to do one of two types of work: valuable work or non-valuable work. And I classify within this context valuable work as something that there is additional value created because a human being's doing it. Non-valuable work are the things that a human being's doing because they have to get done, but you don't get any bonus points. It's not any better because a human being's doing it. So in this case, if there's no value by having your team or anybody's team actually take the survey over the phone, if there's no additional value in that, or you're not creating additional value in that, then it'll be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to have that thing be totally automated because I want to save the human being's time for actually truly valuable work. Like in your case, my guess is that survey, actually you get more meaningful information by having somebody, a human being, take that information down. You just created, part of the automatic journey is exactly what you're asking. So you can use that same sort of form, but you're using it internally. And there is more value created because a human being is guiding the person through it. Whereas on the other side, if it's like, hey, I need to know like your travel information if you're traveling in, or like some basic logistical stuff. I need to get you travel information. There's no additional value if a human being calls up and is delivering travel information, unless you create that to be a really massive experience. My guess is that's probably not going to be the place where you want to leverage, like you want to spend human capital. It just depends on your business. So you could go either way. Once you have some clarity about like, oh, this is what's actually happening, and you have some visibility about how it's working. So like you guys, you hit on a couple of things. One, you knew what the process was supposed to be, and you had visibility into like, well, look, this is not working the way we thought it was going to. So we either need to adjust it so that it works the way we wanted it to, or we just need to adjust it and change it so that we don't, like, we're not trying to, cram a square peg into a round hole.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's basically what we felt like we were doing. Because at the end of the day, when we sat down and really thought about the demand gen marketer and what they have to do on a regular basis, the last thing we want to do is create more work for them. So it's also in terms of that client journey, like you're talking about, to really put yourself in their shoes and understand what they have to go through on a regular basis. Is their journey with you easy? I love how your website actually says that, easy automation. Is it easy for them to engage with you, or are you going to make it harder for them? And us putting that form in front of them before we even had a conversation was making it harder for them.
Yeah, which is, I love the most important takeaway, I think, for anyone listening is the insight that you understand as people are going through that you can make that decision, because you could have decided something different, but based on your unique business and your unique clientele, it's like, no, this is not providing any extra value. It's not making that experience better. Because the irony is, in our business, it's the opposite. We have a form that we push people through to fill out because we want to get the information and data. And it's like, and it is automated because there is no extra value. But you got to keep it simple. That's the key. Is it has to be. There's like 4 core principles that make up an automatic client journey. We're touching on 2 of them right now. The first 2. The first one is the experience that you create for the person going through the journey. So you spend money and time and energy to try and get people to come in, and hopefully you make more money, time, and energy on the back end, right? And then in the middle, there's this thing called the client journey. We want to make it automatic. And in there's 2 experiences that are happening. The first one is the experience that your leads, prospects, and clients have. And you can think of it like the coolest roller coaster ride you've ever been on. That's what we want to create, is this amazing ride that is easy, that is fun, that is valuable, where when they get done with it, they're like, holy crap, that was awesome. I want to do that again. And hey, everybody, the fact that I'm on this podcast is the result of you going through and be like, hey, we should talk about this with Brad, right? So that's what we want to create in the experience for your clients. And what you have to balance that against is the experience for your team that's involved in executing the steps of the client journey, because the other side of it is your team has to do something with these people. And if you make this amazing experience, but then you're like overwhelming your team to try and deliver that experience, then you have an imbalance and it's not going to be sustainable or scalable. And I love, like, my favorite example, Disney does this really well, but you think of like any of the Disney parks, and they've got their characters all over the place, right? So you go into the park and you have an experience, and part of the experience that you get to interact with are the characters that are at Disney. Well, what Disney realized is we've got to be able to have characters pop up, disappear, go other places, move around. And what we can't do is have them moving around between people. And so what did they do? They built underground tunnels to make it easy for their team that has to deliver the experience. So that experience there's two sides of that experience coin. It's what do my leads, prospects, and clients get to experience? And then how easy have I made it for my team to do what they have to do to deliver that experience? And so you got to consider both of them as you go through and plan it out, so that you're not asking your team to do things that are going to require like an inordinate amount of discipline, because you're dealing with a human. You want to make it as easy as possible. And then you want the experience to be as amazing as possible for the lead, prospect, or client. So totally agree. I love it.
I mean, I think you guys do this beautifully in terms of getting your team involved. I remember one of the first experiences I had with your salesperson, Chris, was actually getting a video from him. Which I thought was so, I've never had that before. Like every time I engage with a brand, it's always either an automated email about, setting up a meeting, or here's, maybe a download. But I never got like a video of a person. And I was like, this is so cool. We actually do it now, because I just thought that was brilliant. But in terms of setting things to be automatic and having people involved, I think what's really special about that is you were able to do both.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the automatic client journey, is that I'm creating an experience. And so like your response, like, oh, this is cool. That's an experience. So I'm creating an experience. And what I'm doing is saying, okay, in order for me to deliver that experience, which steps can be automated? And then where do I use automation to just make sure that the human element is better? So in everything that we're doing, it's the first thing is we got to design that journey. Make sure we're not losing anybody at any spot in the process. And then also say, okay, what are the critical experiences and how do I make them better? So one critical experience in every journey is the sales conversation. How can I make that different and or better and unique, where when they're done with the sales conversation, whether they buy or not, they're like, that was just cool, man. And then on the client side, what's the standard? Like, people have a certain level of expectation. How can I go above and beyond and create an experience? And it doesn't have to be, it's not like keeping up with the Joneses, like I've got to be better than everybody else. It's got to be, you have to be on par, but it's also about the uniqueness to your organization. But you create an experience that they leave feeling like the key is with an experience is it's the way they leave feeling like, oh, that was cool, man. Like I got value and this happened. So step one is design the experience that you want your clients to have, and consider it from the standpoint of like your experience. Basically, all you have to do, the only thing that you have at your disposal, the only tools you have at your disposal to create an experience are the steps you're going to take somebody through. And then like what you say and how you deliver it. That's it. You don't have anything else at your disposal. All you can do is say, hey, you've got to go to this page, fill out this form, see this next page, get this email. And then you have what you put into it. There is nothing else at your disposal. So it's like, all right, well, if I have those, how do I make the steps simple enough? And like for you identified, well, we should just take this step out because it is not making it simpler. And then it's, what can I add in here from a messaging and from like a content standpoint that will just make it a unique experience to us, that will have them leaving thinking that was just freaking cool. So it's really just a mindset of I'm committed to creating really cool experiences at every step in the process. And then knowing that, again, if you go back to in my mind, I have this thing drawn. There's the experience you create for your clients. And then that's the front side of the coin. If I flip the coin over, well, I've got automation and then I've got people that it can run it. So now I'm just making it so that it's systematic, so that thing's delivered, every single time. You can't do one without the other though. If you're just creating this amazing experience and it's like all handcrafted one-on-one, you can't scale. And I don't mean you can't, like, it just gets harder to scale, which means you're gonna stay small, which is not necessarily a problem if that's what you're trying to do and you want to build more, more lifestyle, whatever. But most people are trying to grow their business, right? So I want to grow it, and you can't do that when it's all manually handled, and you're just really like custom taking care of this experience. On the flip side, though, if you just create the mechanics and it's just automated and there's no experience, nobody cares. Nobody wants to go through that. There's nothing exciting about it. And they come out the other end like, oh yeah, it's another one of these people that do this. Like you can't set yourself apart at all. It's where those two overlap that you get magic.
It's true. And I think what was so cool about the video is that it wasn't just another video or something that you send out to everybody. It was personalized. It talked directly to me and my business partner, Mike Crass. And it was very much like, hey, Mike and Carrie, I'm really excited to meet you. here's what you're going to experience. It totally set the stage for exactly what it was we were about to get into. And most importantly, I found it set the expectation. This is the expectation. This is our agreement. This is what I'm going to put forth and the energy I'm going to have. And this is my expectation of what you're going to deliver so that we can make this successful for you.
Yeah. And the key in there, right? So you can't automate that video.
Nope.
But you know what you can do? You can make it automatic. I do want to beat a dead horse because I want people to get to this point. Some people be like, you can't scale that. That's like, you got to shoot a video every time. Yeah. But I mean, let's look at it realistically. A sales rep, I don't care how many you have in your organization. They can only handle so many calls at one time anyway. And that video is what, a couple of minutes long? And your sales rep's probably going to be, I mean, they ought to be doing some research anyway about the person they're on a phone call with. It doesn't take that long to record a video, pop it up online somewhere, and then put that link into an email that's already been pre-written, or it's a template that's been pre-written. So this is where the automatic nature comes in. Is like, I know a human's got to do it, but I'm going to have my system say, yo, Carrie just scheduled this consultation. Here's the information about their business. Go do your research, shoot the video, put it here, and then push this button. And then it sends out whatever needs to get sent out automatically. And that was a very manual process. That's why, going back to why I said marketing automation is such a crappy term. You would never think to do what we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes if you're limited by the lens of marketing automation, because it's not marketing and that's not automation. I'm like, yeah, well, it is. It's an automatic client journey. It's the way you make a lot of money. It's the way you scale, and it's the way you have people love you. And it's the way you make your life easier.
And so the last point I want to make in wrapping this up, Brad, which has been so awesome, is something that you like to say is, all this is well and good. You can sit down, you can create the client journey, you can look at, where you can create things that are automatic versus automated. But at the end of the day, you got to do the work and you got to actually go implement it.
Yeah. At the end of every prezo I give, I say, yeah, everything's easy until it's time to actually go do it. You have to go put it together. Because whenever I'm presenting, we are always trying to persuade people to what we see will lead to success. And one of the things that I've seen, like especially around this, is people like, oh, that's a really cool idea, and I can't wait until like my business is ready for it. Or they'll hear like, oh, that sounds really cool, but it sounds like a lot of work. And when it comes to the client journey, this is why I hammered before, like every single business has one. So my summary is, you're already doing every single thing that has to be done as part of an automatic client journey. This is not a question of whether we're talking about adding more work. You're already doing it all. Like a sales rep is already taking a phone call. People are already going through this process. What I'm looking at this, like, what if there was a way for you to spend less time and energy that would allow you to be more intentional, leverage your human resources better, create a better experience for your clients? Like because there are things you have to do already. And if there was a way to do it and you knew how to, like, a process to follow, you could actually get better results with less time than you're currently spending. And so for a lot of people, like, that's like, I don't understand how that works. I'm like, trust me, it's because the way that most entrepreneurs, most marketers are going about thinking about this is so disorganized and all over the place. It's what makes it really hard to go do. And then they stop short of actually being able to create the experience. And the reality is for less time than you're spending now, I guarantee you can deliver a better experience with more clients that are happier, and your life is easier just by getting a couple of things lined up and dialed in. So yeah, totally agree. It's all great in theory. You have to go do it. And when you go do it, just don't do it the stupid way, I guess. Is that the punchline? We'd like a hashtag, don't be stupid. I don't know if that's actually. No.
Well, so the beauty of Sixth Division is that that's where you really come in, right? Like, you do help write down the customer journey, and there is a lot of upfront sort of homework that you have to do before you even walk in the doors of 60 to make this happen. But that's really where you guys come in, right? Is the actual implementation. And that's really what we found powerful is we could write down the customer journey all day long, but it was so helpful to sit across the table we worked with Mike at the time, and to have him really go through it, ask us all these questions, build it, show us how he built it, and then for us to walk out the doors with something that was actually implemented and working.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the day, what you have is you have two things that are necessary to create an automatic client journey. And this is exactly where we come into play. So you're on two ways that you can do lead generation to get people into the client journey. We don't do any of that. We do the client journey. You capture a lead at that point all the way through. That's where we come in and help architect and design. There's really two things to pull it off. You need clarity about what you should be doing and what you should not be doing and what tools you should be using. And then you need implementation. And where we come in is we help with both of those. So we provide the framework of how to think about it, or you can help us work with you one-on-one to produce the clarity. And then we'll go do the implementation. We got some clients that are like, I've got a team that can implement everything, but I have no clarity. So we'll help on the clarity side. So it's really those two pieces of, let me give you a lens of how to look at this so it makes sense. Let's get clear on what you should do specifically. And then let's go build it. And whichever of those two you need, we can help with that. And once you have those two things together, then you're going to actually be able to produce something that's live, that actually is running. And we're always, we got some other aspects around being able to see what's happening and everything. But yeah, that's where we come in and help, is clarity and then implementation across the entire client journey, so that you can not only have the idea, but know which one you should pursue, and then actually get the thing up and running, so we can figure out what the results are going to be, and then go optimize it so that it's an important and contributing part of the overall client journey.
Brad, this was so awesome. Thank you so much for coming onto our podcast. I am going to follow up with our listeners so they know how to get in touch with you. And if I know you're going to build a landing page so they can specifically go to it.
Well, they have a landing page, and I mentioned there are 4 critical components of the automatic client journey. So if you go there, I'll do like a refresher of what we talked about on here with some more examples. And what I'll also do is I'll walk you through what the other 2 pillars are, because there's 2 other things we didn't get to that are really important if you're going to go build the automatic client journey. So we'll talk about those 2, so you've got that whole picture, and that'll give people a really solid resource to be able to go do this thing called, I want to go create my automatic client journey in my business.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Brad. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And that was Brad. So Adam, after listening to this podcast multiple times, which I thank you for your dedication in being prepared, customer journey. We have certainly spotted the customer journey for our clients as we are thinking through digital advertising and SEO and how a user is going to get from brand new, never heard of our client to actually becoming a lead. Is there any real examples we have of where we've reworked things to get to that ideal customer journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And that customer journey is something, as a marketer, you think through, putting on my paid advertising hat. The better the conversion rate, the more you know you're talking to the right people and you're doing the right thing. And my example specifically is for a company out of Seattle by the name of Extra Hop. And we run PPC ads for Extra Hop. And one of the most interesting things that we did is, for a long time, we were shoving assets down the throat of people. We were sending people clicks off of Google directly to an asset, just a landing page with a white paper or a data sheet. And it's pretty typical. You would do that from a PPC standpoint. It's what converts, it's how you get leads and all this fun stuff. But Extra Hop has a really great webpage, and they have a really good product page. It tells the story of what their product is, how you would use it, what it looks like, use cases. It's a great product page. So we thought, let's see how the product page compares to the asset page. And as it turns out, looking at the customer journey, people who went to this product page were converting more often than people you were sending directly to the asset page. Hearing what Brad has to say and then connecting this to this particular example is that we were missing a step. We were going directly to an asset. We were assuming this person knew who Extra Hop was, what they offer, and here's a cool asset about network detection. But by testing this out, sending people to the product page and seeing the performance there, it was quite obvious we were missing that fundamental step in that journey that this prospect and hopefully customer, that's what we're trying to do at MKG, was making. And really, it's something that as a marketer, I've come to hold close to my chest in terms of ensuring that we're sending people down the right path and that we're not missing anything to get there. It's something that made a lot of sense to me when I was listening to Brad talk.
Yeah, it's interesting in thinking about the customer journey, even for MKG, in thinking about how, we're about to launch our own ABM ads here shortly, and we're going to drive directly to an asset. So in taking that step back and really looking about how people interact with our brand on a much higher level and making that assumption that they might not know who we are. So you do need to touch, have those multiple touch points. And even with Extra Hop, I remember it was like 12 touches. 12 touches for them to really like take that leap and go work with Extra Hop. And they had some really great assets, and they had so many touch points. And so even thinking about how we're going to do that, thinking about that customer journey and all of those touch points, from a simple display ad to them not even clicking on it, all the way down to, you know, an email newsletter that then gets that click is huge to really pull up and look at that big picture and see it all sort of come together.
Absolutely.
Well, if you want to learn more about Sixth Division and Brad Martineau and the Find Your Own Customer Journey with the help of Brad, you can visit sixthdivision.com/MKG Podcast. I'm going to put that URL underneath in the details so you can find it, because he made a video especially for our listeners, and you should check it out. Adam, thank you for joining me. Always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure. Thanks so much.